Ladies and gentlemen, we heard the news that certain NGOs had left the national dialogue, didn't we? We heard it and some of us wondered why they had left.
The National Convention, scheduled for next week, will take place as planned. This is according to President Ramaphosa. He noted the concerns raised by some of the national legacy foundations, which included Thabo Mbeki, Steve Biko, Chief Albert Lithuli, and the Desmond and Leah Tutu legacy foundations.
The withdrawal of the foundations is not a train smash. The dialogue is going to go ahead. The people of South Africa want the dialogue to go ahead.
Just a few days ago, the Tambo Mbeki Foundation came out and told us exactly why their organization left the national dialogue.
So when these new people says, no, we are ready to have a convention at UNISA in 8 days, we said, but you can't. And as we're speaking, one of them says, no, here's 28 million rand, it has just come into my phone.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. They left the national dialogue because the Comrades had already started looting. That was the CEO of the Thabo Mbeki Foundation who was involved in the so-called national dialogue. And who was instrumental in the national dialogue being forced upon us? It was his boss, Thabo Mbeki himself, was it not? Here he is to tell us how the national dialogue was forced upon us.
And having discussed everything about South Africa at 10:30, I then said, it seems to me that one of the things that needs to happen, because there are too many unanswered questions, it's not absence of knowledge of the problems. As our colleague, the president of the SRC, was saying, we know the problems of poverty and this and that and the other. The problem, though, is that as a country, we have not been able to solve them, these problems. Never mind our election manifestos. All of us put out manifestos at election time. This is what we're going to do. None of them has assisted us to solve the problem, this problem. So I said, I think it is time that we get the people of South Africa themselves, the ordinary people, to get together and answer these questions. What do they think? Not political parties or whatever, but the people themselves. Let them meet and say, give an example. Why don't we have a national dialogue?
And everyone in the room clapped for this rubbish. A man who is so old and so out of touch with reality is telling the entire country that the best way to find a solution to our problems is to bring a bunch of people to sit under a shed and discuss what the problems are. Huh? People like to treat this guy like he has something vital and exceptional to offer, but the fact is his best days are past. They are long gone and he should accept it. Personally, I would listen to his brother Mbeki before I listen to Thabo Mbeki. Mbeki seems to understand what South Africans are facing, why they are facing it, and what the possible solutions are. Thabo Mbeki, on the other hand, has no clue what he's doing now. And I'm sure that he is a big part of the reason why, as a country, we have failed to achieve as much as we have the potential to achieve.
What is it that we do not know, that we want to at least go around the country trying to determine and come up with a plan to action that? I said then, I repeat, 80% of what is going to come out of here is already contained in the National Development Plan.
Imagine an old man who believes that bringing out a bunch of men, women, children, and traditional leaders into a room will result in solutions for the country being formulated. Huh? He clearly believes that we do not know what the problems are.
The participants, for instance, in the national dialogue would be the women of South Africa. That's one constituency. So what you do, you ask a Professor Puleng Lengabola here, who happens to be a woman, to say to Puleng, can you put together a delegation of 200 women, inclusive of the women of South Africa, who must then attend as a delegation to the national dialogue?
My people of the Republic, are nostalgic. They think they can still have 1955 Cape Town that resulted in a freedom charter. They think they can go back to have a second CODESA. They think they can go back to 1955, women marching to the Union building. That history is gone and past. We are living in a new age. If indeed it's about what it is that afflict us, we know.
Same with the youth, same with the traditional healers, same with many people, the arts world, the people of the faith organizations, and so on. So you have delegations of this kind, of the ordinary people. Not to complain that we are hungry, we know that. But to say, how do you solve this problem? That let the people speak. Not represented by their political parties, but the people themselves. So I said, let's have that national dialogue.
If hunger and joblessness are the problems, if crime and corruption are the problems, why would you need a national dialogue to help you solve that? Why? I'm surprised to see that people are actually clapping for all this nonsense. Thabo Mbeki should have come out and told our people not to vote for the ANC and its babies. That would have done more good for South Africans than all of this. That's what he should have done, both now and ahead of the 2024 elections. But instead, he wants to act as if a national dialogue is a solution to our problems. Really? In a country where police ministers have been in cahoots with murderers, in a country where looters have been the lawmakers, in a country where drug dealers and assassins have been roaming our streets with no fear because they are in bed with the police. What exactly is happening in your brain that makes you think that a national dialogue will fix all of these things? And just like that, the national dialogue itself was a place where what we have been saying was going to be proved. The national dialogue was going to show everyone that the problem is not that we don't know how to fix the country or that we have not had a national dialogue before. The main problem in this country is that looters and people who don't know how to compile or read budgets have been in charge. The problem is that we have had crooks, fools, murderers, lazy buggers, and so many others in charge. That is a real problem, not that we have not had a national dialogue. Some make it seem like the problem is a lack of women empowerment. We have a lot of women in power who know nothing about doing any work. They got into those positions because they are women connected to the incompetent men in power. Still, others make it seem like the problem is that there is a lack of youth empowerment.
So this is Ishmael, and Ishmael has been the youth league of the preparatory task team, and then because you needed to say, possible most of our futures have already been destroyed, but we must not destroy the future of young people. It's in their interest that this must work.
We have youth in power who got into power because they are simply connected to those that are in power. Maybe because they hooked up those in power with young girls. And the young girls also end up in power, do they not? Almost everyone knows what the problem is. Of course, Tambo Mbeki and the rest of the potatoes that gave us the national dialogue got to find out once the national dialogue was rolling that it was nothing more than the same old looting. This time, dressed up as a national dialogue.
I then said that in that same speech that this idea, this thing is, I'm saying this thing, but it's too big even for me. So I'm going to raise this same matter with the foundations and say to the foundations, this is what I think. Can you people take up this matter? So I requested a meeting with them. Lutuli Foundation, Mandela Foundation, Tutu Foundation, Biko Foundation, Sobukwe, Mbeki, all of them. And said, this is what I think, this is what I've said publicly. I think you people must take up this matter. And fortunately, they agreed. So these are the people who then set about organizing for the national dialogue.
For me, this is a sociology conference. I went through the documents. I looked at the 7 themes. If you like, sociology stroke philosophy. It doesn't talk to the real issues that afflict the people. The tender system, corruption, safety and security, right? You have got all sorts of mafias. Why? Because of the tender system. And I don't see room for that. I want to deal with practical things. I don't see in the documents talk about amending the Electoral Act, which is key to turning things around. I've got 5 points that if you were to deal with them in 24 months, you can turn around things. But deal with the question of migration. Please do.
The foundations constituted what became called a preparatory task team to organize a national dialogue. I've never been party to that committee. Max, who is the CEO of the Thabo Mbeki Foundation, is a member of that committee. So I thought I would ask Max to come and complete an answer to this question, which was why did the foundations leave? And what is going to happen in the consequence of that? I think it's best that the preparatory task team answers that question. I'm not a member of the preparatory task team. Ever since the foundations agreed, Max, can you please come?
So we saw Max explain to us why the foundations left. Listen to him as he talks about what happened, resulting in the NGOs leaving the national dialogue.
We were taken to court by one of the leaders of the trade union movement and the political party. And the papers in the court were saying, we know all of you. There is nothing genuine about what you are doing. You want to use government and government money to prop up the misfortunes of the ANC. So there's nothing trustworthy about you. And then secondly, he says, I know how you comrades behave. You've got interesting methodologies of skimming money from government. One way of you going to skim this money, you're going to do what this union leader says, do self-created emergencies so that you can get money very quickly, but you don't have time, plan, and transparent process of how to spend that money. So you will spend that money within few days, and it gives you an opportunity to do all manner of wrong things about that money. And he says then the third thing is that we don't trust this process because this process is not citizen-led process. It's going to be a government-led process so that the government can deal with its own problems. So this accusation is put directly at us.
The trade union leader was correct, but this Max guy along with his boss are too useless to do anything about it. They are babes lost in the woods.
So we responded in detail and said No, that's not correct. This process is exactly the way the president is talking about.
Just imagine saying that this process is going to go exactly the way the president said it is. Do you know the president you're talking about? Have you seen his track record? I mean, it was bad enough that they endorsed the national dialogue. Now, to make matters worse, they believed that Cyril Ramaphosa would make sure that the process would be clean. Babes in the woods, naive, gullible, or simply dull. This goes to both Max and Thabo Mbeki.
We're saying our country is on its knees. There seems to be very lack of clarity where will this country will be tomorrow, politically and economically.
Anyone who pays attention to the collapse of nations has certainty as to where this nation will be tomorrow if people like Mbeki and Ramaphosa keep steering this ship. Anyone who cares about facts knows exactly where we are headed if we don't stop taking advice from people like Thabo Mbeki. The fact that this Max guy, who is the CEO of the Thabo Mbeki Foundation, thinks that there is no certainty is a sign that he is learning from Thabo Mbeki, who clearly has no clue what he is doing.
And it looks like from the political parties we do not have the answers. So our view is that the people of South Africa are sovereign. And it's these people that must give the answer about this South Africa we want and this South Africa we don't want.
Imagine that. Bunch of mumbo jumbo. That is too obvious to anyone paying attention and using critical thinking. Lacking vision. Which people are supposed to be making the decisions? Why do we have laws in place in the country if we have to now set up a national dialogue to know what we need to do? Huh?
We explained that this has nothing to do with helping the ANC. This has nothing to do with the abuse of government. So we write an affidavit. And secondly, we say these foundations will not touch money and this preparatory task team. If there's any money for any resources that are going to be used, they will be through NEDBANK that has got that such capacity. So there's not going to be any self-created emergencies as we are being accused. And as a result, the government is just going to be one of the participants. It's not going to be the drivers of the process. We write all of these things, and the head of state does the same thing, and ourselves at the foundations, we went to court. And as we went to court, we argued that there's nothing urgent about this. These allegations are not correct. And the court agreed with us and chased away that union leader.
That was him saying all these things before the process began. But the Comrades had a surprise for him. The Comrades had to show him what it means to be in government as the ANC. The Comrades were going to teach this babe in the woods what the ANC life is all about.
Here is the problem. 5 days after that, we were asked by some participants in the process to behave exactly the same way we were being accused.
What an individual. Why is he and Thabo Mbeki acting all holy now? They really believed in a bunch of evil people who are the ANC, did they not? They believed in the Comrades. They lacked the discernment to see that the national dialogue would be a waste of time and money when ordinary citizens like you and I could see it.
And our position as the foundations was that we can't walk away from the oath that we have taken. We can't begin to say we will solve South Africa's problems when we act on unprincipled basis. We can't solve South Africa's problems when we cause all of this chaos. So in the end, this is the work Ishmael and the team we have been doing for 13 months. They arrived 3 weeks before the 15th of August a group of people say we've got authority, we are ready, we're going to drive this process. So when these new people says, no, we are ready to have a convention at UNISA in 8 days, we say, but you can't. And as we're speaking, one of them says, no, here's 28 million rand, it has just come into my phone. So we said, this is exactly what we're being accused of. We do not want to be close to a process like that.
Now, finally, it dawned on them that the national dialogue is all about taking the money for the many people who are in charge of the dialogue. Hundreds of millions gone. Nothing will come out of it. Not a road, not a school, not a hospital, or even the arrest of the state-captured criminals. It is a money-spending dialogue. It is a time-wasting dialogue. Let's talk and spend. Let's drink tea and travel across the nation. Anyway, that's it for today. You let me know what you think about all of this in the comments section below. Please share this video with others and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Katlego. This is Citizen Concerned. And until next time, beware of the comrades.